Welcome everyone to this week's Love Tower podcast. I'm Jamar, and my friend Kelly, my boy.
What's good, bro? What are we getting into?
I don't know. Hey, you know what I've been doing for the past 2 days? I'm doing a 72-hour fast, so I got another day tomorrow.
What?
Yeah, just
Tomorrow, today's day two?
yeah, day two.
How you hanging in there?
Pretty good, pretty good. Every time I do a fast, I always feel like slight agitation. It's like the body like once, and it's like, man, I'm hungry.
It's funny. I was literally talking about that today about how menstruating, women on their periods, and how the only equivalent that I could perceive it to as a man is when I get hungry, I'm agitated. But
Yeah,
when you're hungry and you're like you're hungry, but you don't want to admit that you're upset or frustrated because you're hungry. It's like you're so in it that you're just kind of like, no, I'm mad. Like something's pissing you off and like you're a little agitated about it, but you don't want to accept like, you know what? You probably just didn't eat today. Like
yeah,
when you're in the moment of it, it's hard to step back and be like, oh, damn, like I'm probably a little, on edge because I didn't eat. So I'm a little more irritable. And I think seeing, at least from the outside view of when women hit their moon cycles, it's kind of like that. It's like your brain tricks you into thinking you have all these new problems and there's all these concerns going on, but it's like it's hard to separate from it and be like, oh man, like my hormones are going through the roof right now. I'm kind of in a weird place.
that's funny. Because I've heard that too. It's like the brain will come up with a logical reason for
Right.
whatever's happening. I've heard that in even like they said like their reports like where people have witnessed certain crimes that happen. Then they tested people afterwards, like they looked at it, and then they'll ask them a bunch of different questions. And what they found in a lot of people is wherever the mind doesn't have like the full picture, it'll just fill in the picture. And people
That
will be
makes sense.
convinced that they seen this. Like, I know, I seen that, I seen this person. And so they've done studies on this. It's interesting how the brain tricks you like that.
Right. I seen one recently that was like a Coke can, like a Coca-Cola can, and the something was distorted on the image where you can't really see the colors, but I think it was like when you squinted or something like that, like your brain autofills what it remembers, so you see like a red can, but then when you zoom, or that's what it was, the image, it looks like a red can when you're looking at this Coke can, but when you zoom in on it, it's all black and white. So it's like the color itself wasn't red, but your brain remembers it as that image.
Oh, that's a trip,
Yeah,
actually.
one of those same kind of concept is like your brain will fill in, like it'll make up for what you think is there, what's happening. Like you're like, no, I'm mad because I'm mad. Like, no, bro, you're just fasting. You're a little agitated.
Dude, that's crazy.
on on the flip side, one of the things that I actually saw earlier today is that your brain always sees your nose, but it actually filters it out of your sight, so
Oh,
that
that's
way you can
interesting.
actually continue to focus on what's important.
That's
Interesting.
crazy.
It's
As
crazy how it shapes the reality.
Yeah.
as you're saying that, I'm like literally realizing that I always see my nose. That kind of sucks. Thanks, Aaron.
Bro, isn't that
Now it's in
crazy?
my head.
But bro, you could take that a little bit further too. So, like I never used to believe that the mind, because you always watch like movies and different things where like the character will lose their memory, they can't remember like something that happened or their memory gets erased somehow. And so I always used to believe like how could that happen? How could the brain like lose its memory? Like I mean I can see like if you have like an accident or something and you hit your head and like you would lose your memory, but you can actually like the brain, what I've learned over time is the brain can actually edit out parts of your own history due to trauma, due to certain things that happen. So it protects the ego or the personality that's there. So
That makes sense.
yeah, it's like
That's
the mind is crazy.
right. So that's weird. It was probably only a week or so ago. I brought that up. My partner of how when you go through something so traumatic, namely, I mean, I guess usually something bad, something that like you don't want to remember. It's crazy how your brain will kind of wipe that out, and it's almost like a self-preservation method. Is like it shocked you to your core so much that it kind of like blacks it out a little bit.
Yeah, like people really do have repressed memory. Like
Right.
I've done some experimentation, and I know like Scientology and Dianetics gets like a bad rap and everything. But the tool Dianetics, like I played with that a little bit. It's actually pretty powerful, very interesting actually.
Remember you
So
told me about that. That's pretty
yeah.
crazy.
And so with that, you can like a lot of the memories that you may not even remember. Like it also talks about like how like since the memories are connected, like once you kind of uncover one memory, sometimes it'll uncover a new memory right underneath that.
Like somehow they're kind of linked.
Yeah, so they're linked up
You
actually.
pull one up, it pulls something else up, and it kind of spiral.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Makes me think of like, what are your thoughts on past life regression therapy? People, you can go into a hypnosis state and kind of start pulling up your
Yeah,
past life memories, things like that. I've always wanted to do one. That would be interesting.
yeah. I've studied Dolores Cannon. She does like a quantum hypnosis kind of thing.
Okay,
It takes people, yeah, it takes people back into their past lives and stuff.
that's wild. Especially when it's coming out of your own mouth. You know, it's not like someone's telling you this way you're thinking, but you're kind of pulling it up yourself. That's wild.
Erin said something to me, but she stopped saying it. What do you mean? What about it? Oh, you're saying, oh, God. No, but you can. I mean, even in Dianetics, you can. So it's kind of similar, I guess, because in Dianetics you are taking people back into the memory, even though it's not. So if you look at it like what you're saying is like you're taking people back into a past life, a memory that is beyond this life. But then you also have memories that you have in this life that you don't remember. And so you can go back to those too, because people do the hypnosis regression back into this life's memories too. So I do believe that that is a true thing actually.
I'd say so. I think the first hurdle you got to get over is kind of the concept of reincarnation and, not viewing it as such a abstract thought. I think that, at least speaking for myself, that's how I kind of initially saw it, coming from a Christian background. And you're like, is there multiple lives? Do you get one shot at this? I don't know. To each their own, but I think for me, what helped me settle in where my current understanding is, it's almost egotistical to view that you get one chance. This is your one shot. It just doesn't make sense spelling it out in that way. I know we're going off on a tangent, but you're kind of you put
No,
me there.
that makes sense though.
Yeah, it's kind of not like egotistical, but that's not the right word. More of like it seems naive to think that everyone here right now in this life that you're experiencing, every soul around you, this is their one blip in time to kind of experience this, and then it's gone. I think the
That's
the
that
Buddhist teachings kind of resonate more, at least of seeing it more as everything's kind of transactional, and that life is only fair. It's nothing else. Everything is kind of stacked on top of each other. You get what you get because that's what you're served. It's like
yeah.
full accountability. Anyway,
I heard someone like once kind of what you're saying reminds me of something that I heard where someone was saying that if you think about the world, you're born into a world where you don't remember where you came from. You have no previous memory or anything like that. Like think about just that on the surface of itself, like how weird is that? Like we experience this life and like we don't know like where we come from, like where we originate, um, what happened before, but we think of it as like such a normal thing. But if
Mm,
you kind of stop and look at it for a moment, it's like, man, that's kind of weird. Like how do we not have any memory or any knowledge of where were we before this? Like
right.
it just came into being. It's pretty interesting. Let's see. There is a book, Only Love is Real by Brian Weiss. He does past life hypnosis. I think I've heard of him. Uh,
Interesting.
that's cool. That's cool.
Because he explains how one of his patients was afraid of the dark and swimming, but it wasn't from this lifetime, it was from a past lifetime. He even reunited two of his patients in the lifetime as a couple. The key.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
I've never heard of that. I had to check that out.
Yeah. Dude, that reminds me too. Have you heard of like stories of these little kids? There's a whole documentary. I forgot the name of the documentary on Netflix, but there are stories of little kids where they're like 3, 4 years old, and all of a sudden, like they'll be waking up with nightmares. I think this particular kid, he was waking up with nightmares for a while. His parents would always ask him, like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And he would always say that, he'd wake up like in a terror and he'd be like, oh, I crashed my plane, I crashed my plane. And they're like, what the heck this kid talking about? You crash your plane. But he would tell them the same story over and over. And eventually he started telling them the name of his plane, the name of the ship that he was on. And they were just like, where's this kid getting all this stuff from? And so they eventually did some research, found out that it was a real ship with that name.
Damn.
He even had some of the names of the people who were his friends who were on the ship with him. So they did the historical like research on it and found out like he had a lot of accurate pieces that he couldn't have had as a little kid
All right.
as he was growing up. He even eventually, I think he remembered his sister's name, and I think she was like 80 years old or 70 years old or something like that. And she was just like, who is this kid? And she was like, only my brother used to call me by that name.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So she was just like, so it was this whole story, and they were like, this is probably one of the most powerful cases to show past
Reincarnated.
lives like that. Yeah,
That's crazy. I seen something like that a while back on some YouTube series where it was a similar thing. It was a kid who had memories of wartime, and it was basically the same concept. They looked up, he remembered his name then, and what was weird was that the facial features of the kid, it was kind of a stretch, but they had similar facial features to there's photographs of the person that he mentioned, vague details, but he was like, oh, World War One. This kid saying someone's name, and then they tied up the record of where he was saying he was in the trenches, yada yada. It was just certain historical facts like lined up, and their facial features are even the same from the kid to this grown man in like a black and white photo.
yeah.
And I was just like,
That's
damn.
crazy. Yeah, that's powerful.
It's interesting how with children you see kind of a thinner veil in terms of that type of recollection and even just their abilities and all
Yeah,
this whole talk of star seed children and it's interesting just seeing how now more and more people are more open to it. It's become more of a household term.
yeah, yeah. It does seem like children, for whatever reason, they have more of a deeper connection to stuff like that. Dude, I seen a funny video, Instagram video where this lady was kind of reacting to her kid because he was saying that he has this memory. And the funniest thing he said, he was just like, He's like, Mom, I remember when I climbed out of hell.
Oh, I saw that.
Somebody did like a cut to the video, and they were just like they showed themselves like dropping the kid off the street and
I
just
saw
dropping
it.
him.
Yeah, that was
That's
crazy. It was like I remember when the earth split open and I walked out of hell. Like,
yeah. It's
wow,
like what? That's crazy.
wow, man.
Wow, wow. Yeah, but yeah, I do think kids do have that deeper connection. They're just closer uh to the core of existence. Like they don't have as many filters in
Right,
place as we do as adults.
kind of closer to source. Yeah, it's almost like as you age, you kind of stack more and more on. People get stuck in their ways, and it's kind of harder. Like with anything, it's easier to teach a kid a language. They're more absorbing of it, or
Yeah,
anything for that matter. New habits, understandings. Like they're more of a blank slate.
exactly, exactly. I mean, that goes back to, kind of what we were saying. It's like, um, the mind, how much of reality is the mind like dictating versus like what is actually being seen
Mhm.
because by our experiences and everything that's happening to us, a lot of times it shapes, what we see. Like I remember listening to this talk where, it's basically saying like your trauma kind of, if you're not careful, can reshape kind of how you deal with things in the present moment. And
Mm,
then, like, even things like, for example, let's say you had a bad experience in a previous relationship. So you may go into a new relationship with the expectations of those same things, and then it's shaping how you act, but you're basically living off the previous memories and traumas that you had from the past.
that's crazy. Yeah, even when you consider fears, things you don't even fully understand, likes, dislikes, preferences. It's like, how do how could you even say for certain that those are things you inherited, in this time, right? Why is it some people have an affinity towards some things versus others when it's not necessarily like your environment. Like I'm a triplet, so my two brothers that are the exact same age as me, and we have people could try and say that your astrological signs, you have certain personality traits and whatever. It's like, dude, we were born on the same day, different seconds, obviously, but spaced by not far apart, and we're wildly different. So
Yeah,
it's like, what dictates, why some people lean some way versus others. I've always found that interesting.
yeah. Like that's nature versus nurture
Right.
argument right there. Like how much of the person is dictated by like their genes or their previous or their upbringing as the environment that they lived into.
Right.
How are they raised and different things that all factors in.
But seeing like siblings, and I'm sure you know some yourself too, or even relate to your own. It's like, say you and your sister or whoever, you're raised under the same roof, completely the same, but you ended up growing up into completely different people. You
Yeah,
know, it's a good example of like, it's not necessarily the environment that shapes us. It's not strictly your nurture. It's what's in your nature. But question is, where does the things in your nature come from? You
yeah.
know,
They've done experiments on twins for this
really?
exact thing, yeah, where they've separated them unknowingly. Like I was just listening to a story a few months ago. There's this guy I listen to. He talks about all these kind of like paranormal stuff and different stories. But yeah, he was talking about a story where two twins were separated. Actually, I think it was three. So it was triplets actually, but they were all separated and they were all under some study unknowingly. And so they later, as they grew up, they discovered each other and they found each other. And they were just like, man, we have so many similarities. and it was kind of crazy. But they grew up in different households, and in
Right.
the experiment, they purposely placed them in completely different households with completely different belief systems, raising styles, how they were raising the children. So it was interesting how they turned out.
That's a trip. Sis makes a good point. I think memory in general, or your remembrance rather, of your upbringing is definitely a factor. Because I talk with my brother about this all the time, and he'll be like, "Bam, you remember, when X and Y happened?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't remember that at all." You know, and he'll like have a totally different recollection of my own childhood where we experienced things together, and I'm like, "Dude, that happened?" He's like, "Yeah." Same thing on my
Yeah.
end. I'll share something with him and be like, "No, we didn't do that." And I'll be like, "Dude, my memory of the same time period is different than yours, but it's weird."
Bro, that's wild actually. Yeah, that's I've had that too. Like completely separate memories, but we're in the same household.
All right.
That's
You
crazy.
you recollect things differently, or your experience is dictated by not only your perception but your remembrance of them.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we were saying the other day is I think it was must have been with you. Speaking of remembrance, I don't know if I remember if this was with you or someone else, but that dementia or people with dementia have it's almost like their identity is taken out of them. It's not
Oh
just
yeah,
a
yeah,
kind
we
of,
were doing
you know
that.
what I mean? Because it's like, what are we but a accumulation of our memories? As soon as you start losing your memory, you start losing yourself a little bit.
True, that's true.
Have a trip,
That is a trip. It's like, and that's kind of a scary thought to think about.
right?
It's like once you start losing your memories, like your memories is kind of, I mean, at least what we think of as, our experiences and everything that makes us us. So once you start losing that, then what happens? It's almost like you could almost look at it as like a similar type of ego death almost.
For sure. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I had brought that up with a friend recently. I think it's Bruce. Is it Bruce Willis? One of those guys, famous actor that's just can't even remember he was an actor. Could be
No
totally.
way.
Yeah. Like he's going through something that, is impacting his memory. I don't know if it's exactly dementia or something like that, but
Yeah.
it just shows you that, like, what is it all in the end if, like, you don't even have the memory of, who you were, especially if you did great things or you're like a renowned public figure. It's
Yeah.
like, what does
That's
it mean?
crazy. I wonder is it cases where people were able to like recover their memory back? I know there's a story. Have you ever seen the movie Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
That's the one with Russell Crowe.
Right.
He in that movie, I think he's experiencing more schizophrenia though.
Mm,
But he was able to, and he was like a genius mathematician. But I always thought that story was interesting because he had such a like beautiful and powerful mind.
right.
Um, and so for him to like come down with something like that, it was just kind of like, this guy's going schizophrenic now. And
Right.
it was based on a true story, but even though they made it into a movie, but he was able to, through his own, that ability that he had such a powerful mind, he was able to retrain his mind back to normal.
So crazy.
Yeah, like how rare is that, number one? But that's
Right.
really interesting.
Talk about willpower. That was a good movie. I just recently rewatched that maybe a month or two ago.
Uh, like I wonder is there cases where people have done that with schizophrenia or not schizophrenia, but Alzheimer's or something.
Right. There's some kind of practice or something you could do aside from taking whatever medication is commonly prescribed of like to mentally kind of willpower back your memories. Maybe what we're saying is like a regression therapy.
Oh, dude, that's interesting actually. Now, I have a friend of mine who he actually goes to Dhammakaya, and his father is like a very um like relentless like meditator. And so he's meditated for years. And so he ended up actually having a stroke a pretty massive stroke actually, and so they actually took him into the ER and everything, and they were kind of like after they did all the tests and everything on him, and they seen like how much of the brain was affected by the stroke. They were actually like super surprised, and they were asking my friend, like, "Who is your dad? Like, who is this guy?" Because I guess the level of the stroke was pretty big enough where he shouldn't be able to talk, but he was literally sitting there talking to them completely normal. Like,
What?
he was just complaining like his head hurt, like he had a headache. But what they believe is because he was meditating for so long and he meditated for so many years, he had a lot of neuroplasticity in the brain. So
Mm,
he had built up enough, I guess, I don't know, neurons or whatever to where his brain wasn't impacted as much as a normal person would be.
damn,
Yeah, that's a trip, bro.
that's really crazy. You
Yeah,
can literally rewiring your brain just by sitting still and getting into that meditative state over and over. I mean, I'm sure you have other good stories too of similar things, but the power that meditation can kind of do, aside from creating inner peace, but when it's reconfiguring your brain like that to where you're a little more durable or withstanding towards a stroke, that's crazy.
yeah, that's crazy. Wow,
Damn.
wow. But yeah, bro, awesome talking to you today, bro. Another
Always.
awesome Love Tower live podcast this week. We'll be doing these every Wednesday, same time, 6 p.m. I believe it's 8 p.m. your time over there.
Sir.
And then we're still doing them on Sundays as well at 11 a.m. Join us, join us.
Come, come. Good chatting with you, my man.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
See you guys later. Thank you guys for joining.